And welcome to the Everyday Board Game Podcast with Daniel.
And Daniel.
Daniel, you're a child.
No, you're a child.
No, I was a child.
I know what you are, but what am I?
You still are.
I'm going to tell
Wait.
your mom.
Well, no, whatever. I'm gonna tell you you're being a stinky poopy face. All right. What do you have to say about that? Oh goodness, what a great way to start. This is such a dumb introduction. I apologize, but uh, many of you guys know I am a parent. I have kids. Uh, my son is absolutely brilliant. He plays
Or,
like
or, or your like wife likes to say she has 3 kids.
yeah, exactly. I have two. She has three. And today we thought, what better than two grown adult men to debate over than the best children's board games of all time? What are your thoughts on
Yeah.
this?
Yeah. I honestly, surprisingly, I like children's games. I'm not going to lie. They are fun. I have a good time playing them. And there's just something about
Yep.
grown adults playing a game made for 5-year-olds and giggling at a table.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. That's a staying power. I mean, man, this is totally different from when you and I were kids, isn't it?
Oh
Like,
yeah. No,
in,
ways. Our kid games back in the day was Sorry and Monopoly Junior if you want to go younger. But yeah, no, this is
let's be
phenomenal.
honest, we were sorry about this.
We were
No,
sorry
that
about those, let me tell you.
yeah, I mean, ultimately, all board games are children's games. That's the whole point of it, right?
Well, yeah,
Uh,
that's why you buy them in the toy section.
exactly. But there are a slew of good games that now you don't have to put in front of a child and just go, okay, they're going to be rolling dice and arbitrarily going in a circle for a few hours. That'll
Hmm.
keep them busy. That's the square babysitter before the TV was, you know. That it was a good option. But really,
Rectangle, rectangle.
yeah, that's true. A lot of times we had to go back and now being a father, not only do I still like children's games, I like playing these with my kids, and I can't wait to talk about them. Hopefully, if you are a parent and you're considering kids games at all, any of these that we talk about, absolutely worth your time. Well,
And the
maybe not.
thing, yeah, we'll get to that when we get to that. But honestly, if you don't have kids, these are fine to play too. You'll have a blast with them. Uh, it's just better to play with kids because it gives you something to do with your children. Have that family game night, give them something to do. I don't have kids. I've played all 8 games on our list, and I've had a blast with 7 of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've had a blast. We'll talk about the outlier and why. I mean, we almost just took it off the list just for that reason.
Yeah,
Um, I'm gonna try and find. I don't have the Facebook poll up, but so I
I
won't
have
be
it
able
up.
to read the extra ones. But if you want to read the honorable mentions, Daniel, you said there was quite a few, right?
Oh, there's quite a few honorable mentions.
Okay,
In
then I
fact,
will.
our number one vote getter is an honorable mention.
Yeah, I need to consider buying that one. I do remember.
I think I'm going to pick it up because my goal is to own all the games from there. And since I am a champion, and I'm talking about the first game here, added by Ryan, is My Little Scythe. And it's popular. It's our highest vote getter right now with 25, and I've closed the poll. So this is where, when not on there, you guys can still vote as you're going, but I've already got my numbers down. So My Little Scythe, 25 votes. It's a phenomenal game from what I heard. I'll talk about it a little later.
Okay, sounds good. I'm still looking for my list, so
All right.
yeah.
So another one added by Ryan is another one we'll talk about a little later, but I'll go ahead and mention it is Outfoxed. And I've heard really good things about this one to the point where I'm not going to lie, it's on my honorable mentions, even though I haven't played it, but I'll talk about why here in a little bit.
Wait, are you and the wife expecting?
No, don't even put that out there. No, no, not going to happen.
Oh goodness, that was fun.
I just need my mom to stumble across this one podcast, and she's like, "Wait, I heard something over the internet." No, mom, that's just him starting trouble.
Yep, it really is. So, in case uh, in case your mom hears our podcast for whatever reason, you're right. I'm just causing trouble. Go ahead and continue on to the next one. I'm still looking for it.
All right, so the next one here is Debbie, and she adds Ghost Fighting Treasure Hunter. This has 13 votes right now. Another one that is on my short list, so we'll get back to that in a little bit.
All right.
So here's the interesting thing. I'm not even gonna lie. The 3 honorable mentions I have on my list that I haven't played yet, but I want to talk about them because I've heard good things, are the top 3 honorable mentions from the audience.
Yeah, Outfox, Ghost Fighting Treasures, and My Little Scythe.
My Little Scythe.
Yeah,
So next on the list,
Mhm.
huh?
I just got it up and running. So the next
Okay.
one on the list was Rhino Hero Super Battle.
Have you played this one?
I own it.
So yeah, no, this is a phenomenal one. I really enjoy this. This actually should have been our number 2.
Yeah, well,
But it was 2 and 3, so we just went with Rhino Hero.
yeah, we just went with Rhino Hero, and that's true. And our friend Dice Check, let's bring up his note as well. He said, "My niece and nephew are aged 12 and 10, and they are addicted to Three Dragon Ante." So that's an honorable mention from our viewer here. Thank you for including that, Dice.
The next one
And
on our list over here from Ryan is Ticket to Ride First Journey.
yeah, I own this with I bought this for my son. Ticket to Ride is easy enough for him, so it's not a big deal. But what makes this really funny is when you complete a ticket, that's your only goal is to complete the tickets. Doesn't matter. There's no points. First one to get a certain number of tickets wins. And when you complete a ticket, you get to yell in somebody's face, "I got a ticket!" Like it actually like encourages you to like yell at them at the other players that you just got a point. It's so ridiculous, so over the top. I love it.
All
And
right.
then the next one down here that was added by Ryan, and that's Zombie Kids Evolution.
Now Ryan
So
has added a lot of games on this list, just FYI.
thank goodness, Zombie Kids Evolution. It is really fun. I've been playing it with my kids. They're a little too old for it, but I'm really excited now for the Zombie Teens
Is
Evolution.
this the legacy one?
It is the legacy one. Yes.
Okay, I've heard about it. Haven't played it myself, but I heard this was a kids legacy one.
Yep.
And
Yep.
and, and there was a bit of a controversy with it.
Okay.
I'll explain the controversy off screen.
Okay. I'm not familiar with it, but all right.
The
We'll go with
next
that.
one added on the list by Ryan is My First Castle Panic.
Yeah.
Interesting note about this one. Because of your recommendation of it, I gave it to a friend of ours, kid who's a child for his birthday. He's 5 now, going to be 6, and he says he really likes the game. So
Yeah, absolutely. I got a chance to play test this with first graders when I was a teacher for first grade. We play tested this, and those kids ate it up. They loved it. It was one of their favorite pastimes of all time. And what made it even funner is that is when I was talking with the designer Justin. He even said he was like on. I asked him, I was like, "Is hard mode even possible?" He's like, "I don't know. Maybe. I think it is." Pretty sure. But it's fun watching adults try it.
so the next added to our list here is by Debbie, and she added Dragonwood. Now, not going to go too much into this phenomenal game. We really love it, but we talk about it a lot on this podcast. So,
And I'll be honest, this is not on my list, although I think it's a very good kids game. I don't see it as a kids game per se. Um
the
no,
only
granted,
reason, yeah, I don't see it as a kids game. Kids can play it if it all depends on your kid. That's the big thing about this is your child's level.
yeah.
So it just depends. I think it's a phenomenal game. I think it plays well with adults. It plays well with certain kids. I don't see it as a kid games. That's why I didn't make my honorable mentions.
Yeah, that's fair. The next one was added by Jack, and that's Stuffed Fables. Now, let's he opened the box. Let's talk about this for a minute. I personally don't think Stuffed Fables is a kids game because it is incredibly difficult to play. What I consider for a kid, it's not that hard of a game to play, but if you have an adult playing it with kids, it's good. I see a kids game as a game that like you could put with a group of kids and walk away and they will
Yeah,
play it.
so I agree with you on this.
Do you agree?
Stuff Fable is a good family game. I wouldn't consider it a good children's game because
Right.
the whole point of Stuffed Fables is talking about bad dreams and how they make you feel. So you really need to have a child play with an adult on this one, not just for the difficulty level, but because of the kind of stories that you get in Stuffed Fables. So I see this more as a family game rather than a child's game.
Yeah, I completely agree. I completely agree. But I still think it's worthy of noting for sure.
Yeah. So the next game on our list, again added by Ryan, is Beasts of Balance. You know more about that, so I'll let you go ahead and talk about it.
I know very little about Beast of Balance. I know it's the app-driven game, and I've been on the verge of buying it numerous times when it's 50% off, but I'd still have to pay $50 for it.
Yeah.
And that I just haven't been able to justify yet. It's I don't know enough about it. It looks cool. I do agree that it should be on here, but I don't know. I haven't tried it, so we'll have to find that out one time. And our
Hey,
next,
speaking of Ryan,
speaking of games added by Ryan, Ryan, thank you so much for adding all these great games to it. Tales and Games, Hare and the Tortoise, and that's from the I think it's Brain Games and Yellow
Yellow.
who created that series. And Hare and the Tortoise is probably one of my favorites of those. I actually own seven of them, and I think that I only have two more left for my collection. And yeah, they're really great games to play with kids. I know because I play it with kids, and they've actually had a blast. And Hare and Tortoise is probably one of the best ones of that. Although not my favorite Hare and Tortoise themed children's game though.
So the next one on our list here, I understand why it's put on here, but this is not a children's game. This is added by Gavin, and this is Sorrel. It is a simple game, but when you're thinking a children's game, you're thinking colorful, you're thinking grandiose, something that will pull a child into play. Sorrel isn't that unless they're really, 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 really into Dragonstones.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Ryan added another one, Bugs in the Kitchen, which I have not played. Looks fun.
And then Chuck here added one that I put on here. He puts it, it will be Core Quest. And I can't deny this fact that Core Quest will probably be a very highly rated children's game. In fact, you can play it right now if you wanted to. It's first and foremost, it was a print and play game that you can print and play with your family because it was built during lockdown. I think with physical copies, it will climb Board Game Geeks children's game polls from what I've seen. I am a backer on this, so there's my whole hey, I'm invested in this. But it's more so because I like what they did, what the story behind this was. I don't know if I'll like the game as much, but it's a children's dungeon crawl made by a father daughter duo uh, with open sourcing for other children to draw monsters and heroes and put it in the game. They have an app, I believe, that allows you to make your own character and your own villains to put into the game. So I love the idea behind this.
Very cool. Our next one is by Paul, and it's Unicorn Glitter Luck Cloud Stacking. Now, I've played Unicorn Glitter Luck, the board game. I haven't played Cloud Stacking. I'd be curious what the difference is. Unicorn Glitter Luck is a great game for kids like around 3 to 5 years old, but it's very random. There's no strategy in it. It's
Hey,
very random.
that sounds like our children's games from the day.
Yeah, yeah, it is. But the components in it, I love how they made two different versions. There's another one with like dragon fire, so
Yeah.
it's like the boy version and Unicorn Glitter Luck. I bought it for my 9-year-old daughter because it is the most girly thing I've ever seen in my life. And it was half as a joke. But we did play it a couple times and she didn't hate it.
So the next game on our list is Monster Factory, added by Ryan.
Okay. And Ryan added another great one down below that, and that's Robot Turtles. And that's a programming game, which is a really neat idea. You are moving turtles around, programming them to solve different puzzles. Teaches kids the idea of logic and coding.
That's pretty cool.
Mhm.
Speaking of Ryan, he also added Dragon Snacks.
And he also added Best Treehouse Ever, which
Ga-
I believe is a who designed Best Treehouse Ever? It could definitely be a kids game. I would call it a family game personally, but I can definitely see it being a kids game.
I see that. Excuse me. Next one added on our list was Debbie, and this one you've talked about, and that Zombie Teens Evolution. I don't really see this as children game though, because it's teens.
Yeah, Zombie Teens Evolution. No, I'll let you know how my kids deal with it when I buy it. The
Cool.
next one added by John was Taco Cat Goat Cheese Pizza, which I have played this one. It's a slapping game, one of those ones where you're trying to like memorize and you're trying to say things in certain orders, and basically you say the words taco, cat, goat, cheese, pizza while you're dealing cards until one of the cards matches the word you said, in which case you slap it. First one to do it gets it. And then when everybody's like crying because their knuckles are bleeding, you know, yeah,
Mark adds
sure.
Croca Toga Galapa Go.
Not familiar with that one. Are you?
No.
Nope. Okay. Uh, and then Bob added Sheep Boomba.
Never heard of that one. The next one I heard of added by Gilbert, and that's Dr. Eureka.
Dr. Eureka, yes, that is a good one. Made by Roberto Fraga, I believe. And it's like have you seen the puzzles where you're moving things
Oh, I know how Dr. Eureka works.
Yeah. It's like that. It's a cool idea. I like it.
I like the beakers and the fact that you're actually trying to make a chemical bond based on the balls in the beakers.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. The next one, Derek added Catacombs of Karak. Based on the
Sure.
title, I don't know if I'd let my kid play it. I don't know.
Kristen adds Schnapt Hubi.
I hope that's not offensive, and we're just like,
yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Kristen added Sleeping Queens, which I can detest. I have played with my daughter. It's not bad. You have to memorize what some cards do, but once you get past that, it's not bad.
Cool. Jay added Draftosaurus. You could play it with kids. I again wouldn't recommend it.
I mean, you could play it with kids, just like, ooh. I mean, sure, yeah, they'd be able to play it. Vic added Carcassonne Jr., and I couldn't agree more on that. I forgot if I bought a copy of this or not yet. I know I wanted to.
Scott says Magic Maze.
Magic Maze, very cool. Magic Maze it's fun. Also, I don't know if it's kids. Tim added Spinderella.
Never played it.
Yeah, that one's cool. It has like little spiders, and it's like a 3D board, and you're dropping down webs. It's pretty fun.
So now we're going to go into the comment section real quick. Mill said, I only have Ice Cool. So yeah, it got my vote. And Russell was adding that he has Ice Cool and Ice Cool 2. My kids always have fun with it.
Yep. And then Ryan talked about Zombie Kids Evolution and says very easy to play, yet still enjoyable for any age of gamer. Plus, who doesn't love opening envelopes? Winky face. And then Casey replied, "It's such a grind, though. We've never even finished it. But I would like to add yet to that comment. You haven't finished it yet."
And then Brad says, any of the intro to the Big Kid games are our favorites. All of our girls graduated from Catan and Ticket to Ride to the real games through those. So yeah, Catan Jr., Ticket to Ride Jr., Carcassonne Jr. I get what he's going here, and I heard those are really good implementations for them to graduate into the bigger ones when they're older.
Yep, absolutely. April says, I will always suggest this to parents, and she's talking about Dragonwood. I was able to teach it to a 4-year-old with his father's help, and I also enjoyed playing it. Yeah, Dragonwood's phenomenal.
No, I don't disagree. But again, he needed his father's help to play it. Yep. It's not something that he could pick up and teach to his friends.
Right.
Ryan says, I mean, it depends what's considered children. Outfox is my personal favorite for kids up to 5 or 6. Zombie Kids Evolution for kids up to 6 to 10. Ghost Fighting Treasure Hunter is probably the best game that bridges both age groups. Animal Upon Animal is also very good, though. And I agree with him. It does depend on your age group. Again, we're just getting these off-board game geeks, so.
Yeah. Richard says, I picked Animal Upon Animal because it is a game that that just about any kid can play and start playing almost immediately. Couldn't agree more.
And Derek is again adding Catacombs of Carrick.
We need to
I
look
have to
into
look this one.
Yeah, right. Casey says Outfoxed is so good. It keeps my 4-year-old's attention, and I also watched in real time as he learned deductive reasoning. Man, I really got to try this one. I really do.
So I'll talk about it a little bit here.
Yeah.
Um, Casey also adds, I think my first Castle Panic is the most fun one, though. We have all of these listed, and it's the one my son grabs the most. Of course, now we've moved on to regular Castle Panic.
Very good. Okay. And then uh Tonichi, I believe that's Tonichi, yeah. I think a prime consideration would be the ages. If on the younger side, like 5 to 7, I would say Animal Upon Animal or other stacking games. If the kids are a bit older, like 7 to 9, maybe Zombie Kids Evolution. A bit older still, Tales and games might be a fit more because of the betting aspect of the mind games they can play for the full game experience.
I don't know what that last part is, so.
Nope. Do I?
All right. Vic says he got all of his nieces, 3 and 5, Carcassonne Jr., and they really like it.
Yeah. And Andrew replies, Core Quest currently available in print and play, and it's just perfect. Cool. That was a great discussion, and I think we got a lot of great ideas. Daniel, are you ready to debate about some of the best kids
Yeah,
games?
so before we went on, I went ahead and looked up Catacombs of Carrick. It is considered a children's game. Has
Okay.
some really cutesy art, but even then, it looks like fantasy themed. I don't know exactly how it plays itself. It has dice rolling, modular board, and tile placement mechanisms. So,
Cool. Sounds like a
alrighty then.
blast.
So, it is considered a children's game.
All right. Well, I'm so glad we weren't saying like offensive words in there. Uh, well, we don't know that we weren't yet, but we'll find out. All right, so let's talk about some of our honorable mentions because we talked about our viewers. Let's talk about what we consider some of the best games, and I'm curious to see this from a non-parent Daniel and a parent Daniel's point of view.
Yeah. So again, the ones I have on my honorable mention are games I have not played, but they're intrigue me enough that I do want to pick up copies and see how they go. All three of my games here were already talked about in the fan vote, and so I'll go ahead and start because, yeah, all three of mine I talked about. So my first one here is My Little Scythe. It's a children version of a game I truly love. I do enjoy Scythe. But it's adorable chibi figures using the main Scythe game animal mascots. So you have the boar, you have the bear, and they're in these little chibi outfits or these chibi figures. Phenomenal. And I think it's, if I remember correctly from when I've looked into it, it's still to the first to so many stars. And I think regular Scythe is the first one to put 8 or 9 stars up there. This one I think is only 5 or 6. It's a slimmed down version. It plays a lot quicker than regular Scythe, and there's not as much moving parts as in regular Scythe. Um, and instead of war style combat where you're playing cards and having the better generals and stuff like that, it's pie fights. How adorable is the fact that it's pie fights? Now,
Yeah.
it is, in my estimation, better for older groups of children, say 8 and above. I would say roughly. My understanding is simple to learn, but it still takes a good grasp and a lot to learn for younger audiences. And it's good intro to when you want to indoctrinate them into like the bigger games.
Yeah. I just almost imagine that this is heavier than what I think it is. Like, I mean, I know it's technically a kid's game, but
Mhm.
I don't know. It seems like it would still be like a
It
family.
doesn't seem as heavy as you think it is. From what
Yeah.
I've looked into and what I've researched, it doesn't seem as heavy as you think it's going to be. There is a lot going on. I love the fact that there's pie fights for combat. I think that's just amazing.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. All right, my next one, or my first one, is a very simple dexterity game, but it has some really great pieces, fun, fun components. Essentially, you have a haunted house in front of you with 8 different rooms, and you all speed have to shake this house to get certain things like ghosts or snakes or eyeballs or treasure chests or witches into one specific room, and you're not allowed to touch the pieces. It's called Shaky Manor. It is so silly, and I love how all the pieces are made out of different components. I mean, like the eyeball, that just goes flying. You have to do that last. The meeple, they'll slide on the floor, but that rubbery snake, the rubbery spiders, oh, those are such a pain. You have to like throw the whole like room over. It's so good. You flip over a card. It tells you what items are in what room, and the first one to shake all the pieces into that room gets the point for the card. So brilliant. I absolutely adore it. The fact that they have different components and different textures and pieces that interact differently. Like the snake is so difficult to maneuver. It's not only is it rubbery, it's so long, it's wider than the doors, so you have to wiggle it to get at an angle and through the door. It's so great. That's Shaky Manor. I'm giggling at thinking about just playing it right now. It's so fun. I've had a blast with it.
So yeah, just for people to know, this was actually a hard list for me to come up with honorable mentions for because again, I don't play a lot of children's game because I don't have children. I have friends who's got children, but I don't play a lot of games with them. But a lot of these on here I do want to try. And so my next game on my list here is another one that was already mentioned, Ghost Fighting Treasure Hunters. I heard this is a phenomenal family game, children's game. Children can have fun playing it with their parents. They can teach it to their friends. I've heard a different spectrum about it where children actually go out and grab the game and teach it to their friends of like, hey, let me show you this. Kind of like how it was for us back in the day when we were playing those really not so good children's games.
Right?
My understanding of it is the equivalent of like a children's pandemic. They're going around trying to fight all the ghosts and collect treasure and win as a group. It's cooperative from my understanding. I've heard really good things about it. I want to try it. It's very well produced from what I've seen with the tiles and the pieces and stuff like that. So I'm intrigued. I do want to give this a shot.
Cool. Good choice. My next one is a racing game with dexterity, and it's called Gulo Gulo. It's a very strange game where
I was going to
you're
say that's already on our list here. So,
no, we'll talk about that one later. No, this one is neat. You have a basket, a wooden bowl, basically, a basket full of different colored eggs that are different sizes. And these eggs, they're made out of wood, and you have a single egg that's on a stick that's sitting right up in the middle and is being balanced by this grouping of other eggs. On your turn, you can either flip over the next tile and see what it is, or you can try and reach over and grab one of the eggs from the basket. And if you successfully take an egg of that color, you move to the next spot of that color. So it's really smart the way you're doing it. But if the egg on top ever falls over, well, then you have to reset and go back.
oh, okay.
It's so cool combining dexterity with that, and I think it's actually by a pretty well-known designer. I'll have to look into that, but I do believe it's a well-known designer, and that's Gulo Gulo.
All right. So the number one oddball mention on here is the one I actually want to try the most, and that is Outfoxed. From my understanding of it, and I know it's really for younger audience, but I want to see how they do this, is that it's a pure deduction game for children.
Mhm.
They are trying to find who the thief or whatever you want to call it is. And they do that by going to areas searching for clues, which will allow them to start eliminating characters like if this person's wearing a hat or if this person wearing a scarf and such and forth. And so I think that's interesting, especially when you go for the younger audience and introducing them to deduction, having to critically think. I think that's important for some of these games because it helps them not just have fun in playing the game, but it also teaches them how to critically think, how best to deduce. Hey, okay, so this guy's wearing a hat, but it's saying this guy isn't wearing a hat, so we eliminate that character. Phenomenal. I really want to try to see how this works.
Yeah, me too. It's also game right games, so need I say more?
Yeah, exactly. We've talked about them a lot.
Yeah, we do. And my last one is by Haba, which is kind of like the big company, which we're going to be talking about a few of their games for kids games, because not only they don't dumb down their kids' games. Sure, they make simple games and they make children's games that are simple for them,
Yeah.
but adults have just as much fun playing these. And the one that I picked specifically is a card dexterity game called Dino World. Did have I ever
I haven't
shown
even
you?
heard of this one before.
Okay, so it's absolutely brilliant. You have dinosaurs on all these cards, and you start off with a bunch of small dinosaurs like just laying around the table. You
Excuse
need to
me.
take a break real quick?
No, I'm gonna mute my.
Okay. So you have all these dino cards that are all around the table, and the idea of what you're trying to do is you are trying to eat up the most other cards. And so dinosaurs can only eat other dinos that are smaller than them, which makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So the idea of on your turn is you have a dino that you put on top of the box itself, you use as the platform, and you flick it off or slide it off, and any dinosaurs it lands on that's smaller than it, it eats and you score them for points. But
Huh.
then that is now available for everybody else to potentially eat. So there's this like dog pile thing going on as the dinosaurs get bigger and bigger and you're eating up other dinos. It's so fun. It's a really great dexterity game that I highly encourage you check out.
Cool.
Dino
Sounds
World.
good.
Yep.
Sorry about that. Here's your word for the day. I aspirated.
Ooh, you aspirated on camera. People get arrested for that. Are you doing okay? Yes?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Just coffee went down the wrong pipe, so I'm good. I'm good.
Oh, I hate it when that happens. It's the worst.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that talks about ours. Let's talk about the games themselves. Today, we have the top 8 highest ranked children's games that are under the children's game category on Board Game Geek. We rank them by their rank, and then any games that either Daniel or I have not played, we eliminate from the list. So these
Yeah.
top 8 are the highest ones that we both played, just so we can have a good argument for it.
No, yeah, it's important for us to be able to make an argument. It'd be more entertaining for you guys for us to make an argument. That's why we do it this way. That's
Mhm.
why we have our number 8 game.
That's right. So, and we'll talk about that in a minute because we've been making jabs at it. We're both of us are not fans of this game. But and it's one of the few game right games that I don't enjoy.
Yeah, shockingly enough, same for me.
Right. So, but as far as the other games themselves, all of these are fantastic games for kids. We'll talk about why. And let's start by breaking it down. Our number 1 seed, Pitch Car.
We'll be going up against our 8 seed, Rory Story Cubes.
Then we have our number 2 seed, Rhino Hero.
Going up against our number 7 seed, Happy Salmon.
And our number 3 seed, Ice Cool.
Going up against our number 6 seed, Coconuts.
And lastly, our number 4 seed, Animal Upon Animal.
Going up against our number 5 seed, Looping Louie.
Lupin Louie. I love that game. All right. So, how do we break down these debate? You might be asking. Well, it's very simple. In the first round, we simply pick a side by random, and we argue for that side. If we both agree that one should move on over the other, we'll just simply pass it along. Later rounds, we talk about 5 different breakdowns. And this will be difficult in this round because a lot of games have good art and production for kids' games.
Unbelievable production value.
Yeah, exactly. So the very first category we have is ease of play. This is how likely it's going to hit the table, simplicity and familiarity with the rules, which will also be a hard debate, and which one is more analysis paralysis prone, which might not come up in this game or in this one very much.
Not very much, because honestly, I was looking at this. A lot of these children games are dexterity games. There's not really a lot of analysis paralysis for that.
Right. Yeah. And
Next on the
then,
list, go ahead,
oh yeah, go ahead.
is replay value, which is the length of time and how well it scales with more players. The minimum number of plays to get the full playthrough of it, as if it's a campaign, do you have to play 12 games, or after one game, you've pretty much played the entire game. And the expandability of it. Does it already have existing expansions? Does it have one possible future expansion we believe is going to come, or a confirmed by designer or publisher expansions?
And then we have art and production. How good is the art? How great are the pieces made? And then finally, how well does the graphic design help you in the gameplay experience?
Follow that up with meaningful choice, the impact of your strategy, the long term strategy of other players as well. And do arbitrary choices actually make an impact on gameplay? Do I flip a card and be like, oh, that's my action? Does it impact how other people play the game? Or do you have to thoroughly, critically think your playthrough?
And our very last one is immersion, game immersion. How well do the theme match the mechanisms? How much player interaction or table talk is going on? And finally, which ones give you that memorable moment feel? Which I have a feeling this is going to be one of the biggest contenders for memorable moments.
Oh, yeah. And finally, last but not least, it's very important that some of these the games may end up tied, that we have a tiebreaker, and that's what that whole poll we were talking about earlier with the honorable mentions and such is. That's our tiebreaker. So if you want to be a part of it, we always post our polls in the Board Game Revolution community on Facebook.
Very cool. So with that being said, let's get started. Our very first round is going to be Pandemic Legacy Season 1, because I flipped to the wrong page. Pitch Car versus Rory Story Cubes.
I'm like, wait a minute, what? That was last week.
And Daniel will be starting us off.
Oh, great. Guess which one I'm going to end up pulling.
So you'll probably get Rory Story Cubes.
No, I actually got Pitch Car.
Oh, darn.
See that? Pitch Car should move on because Pitch Car.
All right. Tell us why Pitch Car you think should move on.
Because Pitch Car.
Oh, okay. Well.
So all right, fine. It's a fun little flicking race game. It's phenomenal. I can't believe it's taken us this long for you or me to finally play this. It's been out for so long, and we've only played it within a year.
Yeah.
And so I have a great time about it. Even out of the box, there's variable building of the tracks. There's lots of laughters with it. It's fun. It's an actual game compared to the other ones. So I don't know. I don't want to go too much into it because there is flaws with it. I can't deny that fact. But I've seen tournaments of this for children's tournaments. Like I talked about before, I went to Dice Tower West in 2019, and there was a pitch car for children as well as for adults. And I actually had more fun watching the kids play this game because they were just getting a kick out of like jumping them up ramps and trying to get it up on that loop-de-loop. And yeah, no, I could see why this is considered a children's game or a family game, however you want to put it on that aspect. But I could see adults having fun with kids. I could see kids teaching this to other children. I think that's what's important about children's game is, can your 10-year-old son be able to teach this game to his group of 10-year-old friends? And I think that's what Pitch Car does well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Pitch Car is a great solution for that. But as far as developmental purposes for kids, I am going to make a strong argument for Rory Story Cubes. And that's because all of the kids who have that creative side, who like the storytelling, who like the aspect, this is the perfect solution for them. Yes, you and me like it less because it's less of a game. But this is a good tool that is used in a lot of schools specifically for kids to create development and critical thinking along with creativity with creating a narrative. And so I used to bring this to my classroom when I would teach specifically for that purpose because it was a very useful tool. Now, with that being said, as far as which is the better game, I do think Pitch Car should move on. Not to discredit Rory Story Cube so quickly, but it's pretty clear Pitch Car is just a better game. And it's not that kids can't benefit from manual
Rory Story Cubes.
Yeah.
The thing about Rory Story Cubes, I'm going to give its light in a little light here. I agree with you. It's a game that really allows children to use their imagination in interesting ways. It lets them roll dice and try to create stories about what they're seeing and how they get creative about it. I think that's phenomenal, and it deserves that aspect, allowing your creative kid or child to think this through. But other than that, it's, to me personally, it's not a game. It's just a creative way for them to use their imagination, and nothing wrong with that. It's a great tool, as you said, but it's not a great game.
Yeah. Yep, it's just a tool. That's all it is, and that's why Pitch Car will be moving on.
All right,
That
let
was
me
an easy
write
one.
that down.
Our next one will be our number 2 seed Rhino Hero versus our number 7 seed Happy Salmon, which really, really hurts me on this one.
Yeah, I actually enjoy both of these games. I think my favorite bracket, I'd have to say, is the next one,
Okay,
but Rhino Hero's up there with like one of my favorite games to play.
yeah, and you'll be leading us off this time.
Oh, I get to lead it again. All right.
Yeah, that's right.
And I get Rhino Hero. You're not going to be able to see it, but
Yeah. Rhino Hero.
it's highly rated for a reason. It's one of the more popular games out there when it comes to not just um, children's game, but just games in general. I've seen more adults have fun with this game than I've seen children sometimes, to the point where on Board Game Geek Store, they're selling like the giant version of this game to play at like conventions and stuff. And I'm tempted to buy it because that's how fun a Rhino Hero is. Again, we talked about it at the top of this. It's a Hobbit game, so it's very well produced. The
Yeah.
cards are really nice. They're made to bend, so that's going to happen. I know there's going to be some people that are like, "Oh, you got to bend cards," but it's important for you to do it. But they bend phenomenally, very well. They work and they stack very well. So, like if you're building into like card castles and stuff like that, these work really well to stack with one another. Um, it's great for young and old. Parents can play with their children. Their children can teach it to their friends. It's a phenomenal game. If I would have to go out on a limb here, I'd probably say this is my favorite out of all these children games.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's a popular dexterity game for that reason as well. It isn't just for children; it's for adults. I have a good time. I've played this with children. I've played this with adults. It's there's a reason why it is so popular. My only drawback to this one is I honestly believe Rhino Hero Super Battle replaces this for me because you have your own individual player character that you're trying to help you win. But if I had to choose between this and any other game on this list, I'd probably choose Rhino Hero.
That's fair. Okay. My argument for Happy Salmon is this is one of those ultimate like 100% stand up moment because you have to stand up while playing the game. It's an incredibly simple game and it's a great party game. And one of the best experiences I've ever had playing this was at a convention using 2 copies of it with the owner of North Star Games. We convinced him for us to get a 12-person game in it in the middle of a convention hall while everybody else was enjoying their fun games or their good games, sitting at tables, being all quiet, staring at the screen or staring at the table, going, how do I play my next move? While everyone in this whole group started playing and the entire event hall stopped what they were doing to watch 12 people play Happy Salmon and go like this. It's phenomenal. It's one of the best things. It created a meme in our store. Like we actually started shaking like that. It was so great back when we could.
Happy Seven.
Happy Salmon. And and even the silent version was like so full of laughter. It was one of the least silent versions of a game I've ever played. It I really think that I I really love Happy or Rhino Hero, but Happy Salmon is more of my favorite game. I think we should break down
Oh,
the
we will in a minute. I do have
yeah,
some issues with Happy Salmon moving on against Rhino
okay.
Hero, and that is we're talking about children's games. There's
Yeah,
children that have sensory issues, there's children that have noise level issues, and yes, there is a quiet version, but this could be overwhelming for them. There's even children
sure.
that have issues with big groups, and this will hold a big group. You don't have to play it with a big group, but the whole point of this is to play it with such a big group where you're trying to get your entire deck done by doing all the spin switcheroo or the happy salmon and all that stuff. So this could be an issue for some children.
It,
Um,
I would make the same argument for when the tower falls in Rhino Hero
no,
too.
no, I agree with you. But it's more so in Happy Salmon because in Rhino Hero, at least some kids don't have to touch other kids. They're just moving things around and stacking things on top. This
Sure.
one does force you to make contact, and there's people that don't like making physical contact.
Yeah, that's fair.
Another big detractor here is that it doesn't come in a box; it comes in a bag, so things can get ruined, things can get lost. And yeah, other than that, the replayability about it is it's the same game every time.
Yeah. I mean, well, yeah, most of these games really are, right? In a way.
Yeah,
Yeah, so let's break it down. Let's because I'm curious to see how this compares. Ease of play. I think Happy Salmon is simpler than Rhino Hero because in Rhino
I
Hero,
think Rhino Hero is simpler, and hear me out why. Happy Salmon, you're still kind of required to know reading. You can play Rhino Hero without the possibility. It's language independent when it comes to Rhino Hero.
it's not language independent. Or Happy Salmon is just as much because they have the pictures of the salmon doing the thing. They
Yeah.
it's 4 pictures. That's it. Whereas Rhino Hero, you have to know the symbology of who, where you, or if the exclamation point, what that means. You have to have at least a basic fundamentals of punctuation, even on top of that. Sure, the Rhino Hero, that's obvious. You move the Rhino Hero to that card,
Yeah.
but I would give it more for graphic
Mm,
design, sure,
ah,
absolutely, but I wouldn't say that it's simpler because literally it's 4 actions.
all right, I'll give you ease of play.
Okay.
Meaningful choice is going to. I'm sorry. Meaningful choice goes to Rhino Hero,
Rhino Hero, absolutely. Yeah, because you can
as
just
well as art and production.
yes, I'll give it that because the graphic design pushes it above. Not that Happy Salmon needs it. I would give production honestly to Happy Salmon because I love the pouch personally. I know you're welcome to argue
Mm-mm.
it. It's fine. I just personally like that pouch a lot.
Nope.
But,
Nope. Nope. Nope.
but as far as meaningful choices, yes, you have to decide which floor to put, which one you think is going to be the most difficult for the other player. I'll give it that.
Game immersion. Now, this is where we're going to get into a fight.
Yes.
I get what you're saying. You had the con thing where everybody stopped because of a little card game. I've seen this played at a con as well, and everything stopped because everybody's seeing what's going on. You see that tower getting taller and taller and taller. So there's memorable moments. I've had memorable moments where I'm like, oh God. And I'm trying to put that hero way up at the tippity top without dropping everything.
Right.
So for
I,
me,
it's weird, right?
yeah.
Because you count the memorable moment of the entire game, which is so condensed into 30 seconds of Happy Salmon, or do you count it as the build-up that Rhino Hero inevitably builds as you see that tower start teetering? We used to play this at our local shop, and we would forget that there was ceiling fans above. So the rows would constantly be swaying back and forth.
Oh
It
yeah, no.
was I will give the stand up moment to Rhino Hero, eh, because I've seen an 11-year-old, I think she was at the time, actually stack every card and do the entire
Well, I'm just giving game immersion itself to Rhino Hero, not just because of the stand-up moments,
right.
but the what was it? I just saw it on my criteria list here. Is the theme match the mechanism? I say it matches more. You do feel like you're moving a superhero up there to save more people while you're
Sure.
stacking cards up and making the building taller for him. Then
Yeah.
you feel like a happy salmon. Basically, here's the problem
Yeah.
with happy salmon, and it's going to get a little dirty. The thing that you're doing is basically the breeding movement.
Yeah.
So it's like you turned a dirty joke in a children's game. Come on.
Yeah. It's super silly. I don't know. I agree with you.
Don't
I
get me
will
wrong. I
give
enjoy Happy
anything
Salmon
super
for what
silly.
it is,
Yeah.
but my big detractor for it is that sometimes there's kids who don't like to handshake or do, especially in this time, you
Mhm.
don't want to get in close contact to
Right.
someone else.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. No, I completely agree with you. I do. All right. So that means Rhino Hero moves on. Our next round will feature our number 3 seed, Ice Cool, versus our number 6 seed, Coconuts.
I
And
really dig both of these games. So, this
I
is
will
going to
be
be fun.
leading the argument. Yeah, this will be fun. I will be leading the argument for this one. I think
All
I've
right.
shown
So,
you both of these games, didn't I?
well, funny thing about coconuts is no, you did not show me Ice Cold. Our mutual friend Bryce did.
Okay.
Um, Funny story about coconuts though is you bought it at a game convention that we were at, and you're like, "Let's try this out," and everybody stopped what they're doing and watching us fling coconuts across the table at each other.
It's so good. One of the reasons we like Flying Goblins so much.
Oh yeah, well that doesn't help matters when both the papers are in each other.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that doesn't help at all. This
All
is a
right,
very
so
simple task.
speaking of coconuts, this is your game.
All right, coconuts. One of the best dexterity games, hands down, because you have little springy monkeys that have spring arms like catapults. You put these rubbery, bouncy coconuts in there, and you're flicking them into cups. You're basically trying to use those cups to stack a pyramid. First one to stack a pyramid of 6 cups wins. What makes this so fun is the fact that you can play the simple or the advanced mode. The simple mode is just simply take a coconut, launch it in. Advanced mode, you have some special ability cards that you can use throughout the game. It's a minor detail, but what makes it neat is that when you finally get a point, you stack it onto your side. If it's a red cup, you get an extra turn. And you can combo this like crazy. But when people are starting to take these cups away from the board, that means that they're further away. You have to make a better skill shot, and you're launching it directly in front of them, stealing a point from them. It's awesome. And I mean, I wish you could just like knock them over, but the coconuts aren't heavy enough. This has one of the best production values. Not to say Ice Cool is bad because it's really not, but
Yeah,
this one is phenomenal compared to that. If I made
but
a
here's the thing about that though is that you got to think about the fact that it's mainly a toy factor.
Yes, but it works really well. If it was a toy factor for the toy factor, which we've seen a lot of games where it's like, look at
Which
this
we'll be
giant
talking
thing.
about one in a little later.
Yeah, it's specifically like, hey, look at this big toy in the middle of the game, but does it really help the game? No, not really. Like take Mousetrap, for example. How often when you were a kid did you just build the contraption and didn't care one bit about the game?
I never
That's
played Mousetrap because it was one of the more expensive games we couldn't play.
yeah,
While my
but
brothers had Hero Quest.
but you always wanted to, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. And that's because the toy factor is phenomenal in that. But we're not arguing which has the best toy factor. It does have toy factor, yes, but that is a critical component. Those catapult hands work and they're functionally really good. They make perfect sense for why they do it, and it's thematic too. So, with that being said, I think coconuts should move on over ice cool.
I have to disagree with you on that. And mind you, I enjoy coconuts. There's a couple issues that I have with coconuts. Is that one, it can be frustrating for a younger audience. I have seen this because they can't get the aim right, they can't get the proper pressure. When you're thinking about 5, 6 year olds and stuff like that. Now, I agree, it's a great game. There's that frustration there. You got to be aware of the flying objects. Things can be easily lost, and if you lose those coconuts, you can't play the game anymore.
You're lost your crook.
And yeah, and I know this to be a fact too, because there's issues where you have to buy replacement parts because they're flying around all over the place. They get under somewhere. You just don't know where they go. Uh, you have to sometimes wear safety equipment. You might have to wear goggles because these coconuts are flying. You might lose an eye. Mind you, they're
Coconut
rubber. It's not that bad. It's not like flying goblins where you got meeple things coming at your
yeah,
eyes.
with sharp feet and jagged edges. Like
And my big detractor for coconuts is this: if one of those monkeys breaks, you've lost a quarter of the game. If that arm breaks, the spring breaks inside, something happens to it over wear and tear, you lose a quarter of the game. They're a
okay,
lot harder to replace than, say, when you're playing Ice Cold and you lose one of the penguins,
yeah,
which is a key
okay,
component of the game. Now, for me, with Ice Cold, the theme, your penguins in high school. Sure, cool. But it's well produced. I love the graphic design, the way we do it here is because you're using the game box as your board. You're building out these little boxes, making these little sections, making this creative game. And all you're doing is another flicking game here. You're flicking these little penguins through rooms, trying to get fish without being caught by the hall monitor. Everyone pretty much takes a turn as the hall monitor. So you're trying to capture the penguins who aren't in class like they're supposed to be. Really great design. Way you incorporate that box and you hold it together with the little fish clips.
which I find cheap personally.
Uh, they could be better, but they're not that bad.
They're
I
not bad.
mean,
They work. They're functional. It's just
they're
not.
just, I could say the same about the coconuts. Yeah, they're nice and rubbery, but they also look like something else.
Well, that's just because coconuts look like something else. Have you ever seen a mini
No,
coconut that's that
you
big?
you
Yeah,
can make a coconut design, not make it look like they're flinging pellets.
but that's humor. That is good, honest to God humor right there.
Uh,
That's fantastic.
Also, the I like the way the penguins work with the like the best way I could think it is like those punching clowns, how they always write themselves. I like the way these penguins work. I've seen a 5-year-old figure out how to fling the penguin this way. They do that curve that you need them to do to get into that next room. I'm like, I can't even do that. Or if you hit it just right off the top of it, it flips over the box top into the next room. And I'm like, that's amazing. That kind of stuff that allows you to critically think, how do I do this? How do they hit this sweet spot? Giving you that dexterity. Like if I swear to God, this kid's gonna be a pull shark. How well he can make that penguin spin. Um, I think it's fun. It's a fun game. I think it moves on per se because when it comes down to it, Ice Cool has a set amount of time when you're done. Yeah, you're trying to get in there, get all these little fish out.
Mhm.
Whereas coconuts, you have to keep going and going and going and going until someone gets all those cups. And sometimes that can take a little while, especially when other people can get into the cups and steal a cup. And if they get a red cup from another player, they get to take another turn. And so it can become a little much and overstay its welcome. And then you got these coconuts flying all over the place, and you're like, oh God, quit shooting me. I just think Ice Cool is the better game itself.
The only
Coconuts
other
is fun.
argument I would have for ice cool that I personally dislike about it is when you get a fish, you get a random fish card that's worth 1 to 3 points. That means
I
that
get that.
yeah,
Yeah,
I could play just as well as you and be hosed on the points.
I can see that, and I understand that aspect of it. But to me, it feels more of a game than coconuts. All coconuts is you're just trying to get into the cups. And again, kids can become more frustrated with this because they can't aim properly or they can't get the right pressure. And yeah, sometimes it's good for them to do that. But in the basic point of these things is to have fun. And if they're not having fun because they can't get stuff properly, or if one of those things breaks, then you have lost a quarter of the game. You have to go buy out a new one because I don't know if you can get a replacement monkey.
Now, I've never heard of any of them breaking personally. Um, but
Well, I haven't either, but it's a possibility when you
sure,
have moving mechanisms inside a little plastic piece. If it drops wrong, it can break a spring.
sure. No, I get you there. But we're talking what if, like that. It's hard to debate. Now, the only thing
But
is,
that goes into the art and production and the graphic design kind of stuff too.
yeah, the production. Yeah, it absolutely does. So I wonder if we were to just boil it down to the fact that they're both dexterity games, which one allows you to have more ridiculousness? I think it would boil down to probably Ice School because they're both skill-based dexterity games.
Hmm.
One, you're aiming, you're adding enough pressure, and you're firing. Okay. The other one, you're calculating angle, pitch, like pressure. On top of that, you bust up your fingers pretty bad though playing it, but it's a minor detail. I can agree with you on that just based on that alone. That I think Ice School can move on because it allows for more shenanigans and the more skill shots that they could use later on in life. Children could apply that to like sports or like golf, or
Or
other.
pull, as I said.
Yep, yep, absolutely. So that means High School moves on.
Oh, this is going to be an interesting next round because it moves on against Rhino Hero.
Yeah, it will. All right. So our final semifinal round is Animal Upon Animal versus Lupin Louie. And that is I am leading first.
All right, let's see what you get here. You get Animal Upon Animal.
Really? Okay. So Animal Upon Animal, it is a fantastic little animal-based dexterity game. You add the die. You don't have to think about it too hard because when you roll the die, it tells you how many pieces to put out, or what kind of piece. Or you can make another player put out the pieces for you, depending on what you roll. That is given a dexterity game for 2 players in between, or I think it's a 2 player only game. It might be able to play up to 4, depending on who has what. But the first person to get rid of their pieces wins. If you stack up a certain number and they fall off, then you take the ones that fell, and that is more that you have to mitigate later on. But because of all these random animal shapes, it is absolutely brilliant how you have to stack them, and you have to put some legitimate thought into the actual stacking itself. I do quite like it. I don't know how it's going to go against Loop and Louie because I do actually consider that a better game personally. But I
I
like
do
to hear the
not
argument.
consider Looping Louie a better game, and I have to argue it.
Well, go on, go ahead.
Just give me a sec. I'm making some calculation or some stuff on the book over here. The toy factor alone of Looping Louie will draw people in, especially since they remade this as Lupin Chewie, and you have the Millennium Falcon. That's going to draw people in. It drew me in when I first saw it. It's a very simple game of trying to knock off your opponent pieces and being the best, and trying to calculate how you're going to use your little paddles to move him over yours and hit the other person's. I think this one can hold up to 4, correct?
Yeah, Loop and Louie holds up to 4.
Chewie's 3.
Technically, you can have up to 8.
If you have 2, yeah.
Unofficially.
It's very well produced. I like that fact, and for children, they'll get a kick out of it. Here's why I don't think Lupin Louie should move on.
Okay.
Because if you play a 2-player version of this, if someone knows how to the timing right, you'll never get a shot. You'll never get a shot at it if they time it just right and they figure out that timing. It's happened to me in a 2-player game of this game against you.
Yeah.
And that takes people out of the game. And it frustrated me at the time. I can imagine if it was like a 5 or 6-year-old, if someone can time that shot where they can't even get into the game.
I get you on that, but that's you can't detract people, or you can't penalize the game for people being able to outskill another player. Like, I do agree with you. Like,
But again,
but that's not a fault
it's
on the
good
game.
skill. No, it's fault on the game when you got to figure, especially for a children's game, it's
Would
a
you
fault.
say, so if you played pool against a pool shark, you would say that pool is a flawed game because they're so good at it? That's not, no, I disagree with you. If I were a pool shark and I break and then get a ball in every time and you never take a turn, that's not a flaw in the game. That means that I'm that much better.
Yes, but we're talking about something that is a skilled game to a toy game. This is a toy factor. This shouldn't be about skill. It's about critical thinking, and you're destroying someone's soul, basically. If you do this to a 6-year-old, they're going to rage quit and never want to play this game with you.
Okay. But that doesn't.
Animal upon animal, at least they have a chance. Because it's based on a dice roll and you're stacking. If it falls, hey, it falls, but at least you're doing it. I could be completely taken out of a game and not able to play it. And then what's the point of me playing a game if I can't play it?
But animal upon animal, you can actually play without playing. If you're beholden to the dice rolls, and if you roll the hands where you give the piece to the other players, they're playing for you, and then they're penalized because of a random chance. I think this is definitely more skillful.
I don't think so, because honestly, once someone figures out that timing, it's not skillful for the other player because they don't get to use a skill. They don't get to do nothing, because once someone figures that timing, it could be the first round and you figure out that timing and you hit that button and that thing jumps. I can't even use my paddles. They're just useless to me. And you can do that over and over and knock down my pieces without me actually getting to use a turn.
So let's do another comparison. Let's say we're playing baseball, and this pitcher is so good that they strike out every batter against it.
Statistically, that's not even going to happen. You're arguing baseball as someone who plays baseball.
I'm arguing logic. You're saying that because somebody is so good that they'll frustrate the other player, that that's a flaw in the game. No, it's not. It never can be.
Okay, but see, here's the thing.
If
The
you and me are
player,
playing,
the pitcher is never going to take another player out of the game because there's always going to be a player that can hit the ball. You're taking away a chance for me to hit the ball.
yes, yeah. Same with pool. It's the same thing. If I sink the ball every single turn, then I take you out of the
I
game.
can't give you this. To me, this is a toy more than a game.
The reason why I think this moves on more than that is because this is a game that has no random chance. It is pure skill comparatively. Animal upon animal, it is dexterity. There is skill in it, but you're beholden to the dice roll. It is more random. You have to know what the symbols mean. It is less simple to understand because
It is not that simple. You put animals on an alligator.
everybody understands click, click, click. That is easier to understand, easier to play than that, and it has the IP on top of it.
I'm sorry. No, I can't. We're gonna have
Well,
to go into the. We're gonna have to go in the breakdown.
all right, let's go to the breakdown. Ease of play, Loop and Louie.
Sure, I'll give you Loop and Louie on ease of play.
Art and
Meaningful
production,
choice.
Loop and Louie.
Not giving you Looping Louie on me. No, not art production.
Art and
No.
production, yeah, it is.
It has a nice design, but again, you have to have batteries in this game to play it.
That has nothing to do with it. The counterweights and the design on it to make it actually go by those physics. That is a good design. That wouldn't work if you didn't do it right. These are just chunky wood bits that you stack. You could do this with
They're still great chunky wood bits.
You could do this with cans.
It's like comparing Forbidden Sky to Carcassonne. Which is better?
Production wise, Forbidden Sky.
No.
Yes.
Carcassonne is better production. The art's better on the tiles. The meeples are much better than whatever the hell the pawn things you get in Forbidden Sky. The only cool thing about it is the toy factor of it, of the interconnecting electrical currents.
No, the art is better. The production.
The art is not better in Forbidden Sky. It is probably the ugliest of the 4 or the 3 games there in the Forbidden series.
This is just Animal Upon Animal is the yellow box with just shapes of animals. That's it.
No, not necessarily. You can also get the Animal Upon Animal dinosaurs. You can get the Animal Upon Animal, the girly one, the unicorns or whatever.
Blocks,
huh?
Well, they are. They're just wood blocks, though. They're different shapes.
Still really nice wood blocks.
They're okay. They're not a flying aircraft that has counterweights and uses physics. Like that's
because honestly, to me, Looping Louie is just a toy. That's all it is. There is no game. How many times I've played this game, it is not a game to me, especially the 2-player game I played of you. I didn't get to play the game.
I figured out you're salty. That's what it is. That's why you're so mad.
It's not salty, but that is a problem, a flaw on the game. Nope. If you take someone out of the game, how are they going to like it?
You're salty. You're not.
Did we freeze?
Thing.
Hold on. Let me check here. There is a freeze.
That's fine. Yeah, it should be working now. I saw that freeze. Okay, fine. Let's call it a wash because you're not budging.
I am not.
Because, nope. You live in a false world, but that's fine.
I don't live in a false world. Looping Louie is a toy.
Meaningful choice. We're arguing kids' games. I want to remind you that. Toy.
I understand that. But here's the thing. We're arguing children's game. We're still trying to figure out the better game. Looping Louie is not a game when you can eliminate someone not being able to play said game.
Absolutely it is. It still is. It's a game of skill.
No.
All right.
Can't give you that.
Looping Louie.
No, not giving you that one either.
Yep. It's Looping Louie. Well, how isn't it? You have dice rolling for Animal Upon Animal.
So we've even said dice rolling is not that bad. You're still having to be able to stack. You still have to use your dexterity to put the pieces up.
Okay. So how is that better for meaningful choices?
Because I can at least still play the game. I can still use my dexterity. I can still use my skill to best judgment how I'm going to put this piece onto this piece.
Let's break that down now. Arbitrary choices. There are arbitrary choices in Animal Upon Animal. There are
arbitrary choices in Animal Upon Animal, but at least I can still make a choice.
Okay, impacting other strategies. I clearly have a strong.
I'll give you that, Looping Louie. I'll
Lupin
give you that to
Louis.
Looping Louie, but it
Lupin
also
Louis.
impacting my long-term strategy. There's a point in Looping Louie where I can't play,
Yes, because I've impacted your long-term strategy.
but it's not impacting my own strategy. It's me making choices
Right.
to impact my strategy. Is how we rate that.
So no, that impacts your long-term strategy. So this is 2 points going to the one for animal upon animal. That means Lupin Louis gets the point.
Not giving the point. Nope. Not
Now,
budging. If we have to, I will take it all the way to a fan vote. Fan vote. I am not giving it
because you've seen the poll and I know it's higher. Because you're arguing it just because you know the fan vote is higher, right?
No, I actually had to look down to see what the point total was when I said that. I cannot let Looping Louie go
Right.
over. Yes, you're talking
How
about
many votes
skill.
did Lupin Louis have?
Looping Louie had 2.
How many votes did that animal upon animal get?
18.
And that's why you're not budging. Because you know it'll go but
I didn't know what the vote until I said it. And then you said the fan vote. I'm like, do I?
I
I
will
didn't
give
know
it
what the fan vote
replay
was because I
value
took this down before we started recording.
I will give it replay value because there are more versions of animal upon animal. Game immersion, I will not give it because it has more stand-up moments in Lupin Louie. You are immersed the entire time.
Oh no, I've had way more.
Higher
The
production
only
value.
memory I have of Looping Louie is me not being able to play the game.
Yep. Okay.
That is
that's
not a
fine.
memorable moment. That is something where I won't touch a game again.
Nope.
It's basically
strongly
player elimination while you're playing the game.
No, if you stand your ground to the point where you're making it fan vote only, you are breaking the system.
I'm not breaking the
you are
system.
completely negating our argument.
I'm not negating the argument.
Okay, 100%. You're negating the argument.
All right, fine. We'll move Looping Louie over if you really think it's that much of a better game.
100%. It is better than Animal Upon Animal. 100%.
Right. I'll give you that. Fine.
Man, who thought kids games would be so heated?
I can't believe a non-game went across.
It's totally a game.
It is not a game.
Oh, let it be.
When one person cannot even play, cannot even make a choice, it's not a game.
So are you saying pool's not a game?
No, pool's a gamble.
Pool's a gamble.
I'm not wrong.
No, but it's still a game. I don't disagree with that, but it's still a game. All right, semifinals. Let's go into this. Oh my goodness, I'm sweating. This is ridiculous. All right, Pitch Car versus Lupin Louie.
Hold on. Before we move on, Animal Upon Animal was our #1 vote getter at 18, which I didn't know because I recorded these before we filmed. Mm-hmm. I don't remember the numbers. There's like several numbers in here.
Yeah, you wrote them down. You saw them.
You could pull the chat up too. Let's see here. What else got eliminated? Happy Salmon was at 1. Rory Story Cubes was at 0. And what was the last one that got eliminated? Coconuts was at 4.
Okay. So now going into the semifinals, it's Pitch Car versus Lupin Louie. Now I will concede that Lupin Louie does not go on. I didn't realize it was going to be up against Pitch Car because really they are the same skill-based dexterity games. And
no. Pitch Car is a better skill-based playing game because I can still play Pitch Car. When you have player elimination in a game, that is a fundamental flaw. And Lupin Louie has player elimination where a player is in the game and can't play it.
Okay, yeah, technically. Yeah. I'll give you that. No, I agree. I think let's see who's arguing for which one. Do we even want to do this? Like, we know what's going on.
No, we're going to do this. You said we can't go against our agreements and stuff like that. We got to argue this.
You're the first arguer. I hope you draw Lupin Louie.
I got Lupin Louie. It's moving on because it's a skilled game.
So bitter.
Toy factor alone will draw people in. That's what I said. It's a very simple game, trying to know all of your opponents, knocking off your opponent's pieces. It's well produced. Yada yada. There's my argument.
Yeah, Pitch Car is just flicking discs. It's not thematic at all. It's they're not even real size of cars. They're discs. They're not even shaped like cars. Like, I don't even know. Then you have like rubbery things that like stop cars from flipping over, but really they just help it flip more. It's so dumb. And then it's super expensive. Talking about a toy, this isn't even good enough to be a Hot Wheels track. That's all I'm saying. With that
Hot
being
Wheels is more of a game than Loop and Louie, all right?
no, it's not.
When you got those little controllers, when you're going, that's more of a game than Loop and Louie.
Well, that is more of a game. That is a skill game, actually. The track ones, because you can't take those turns too fast. You'll fly right off. I give you that. I would have totally agreed with that. But Animal Upon Animal is not that game. So I agree. Pitch car moves on. So passionate about these games. I hope it's entertaining. Our next round is Rhino
I'm
Hero
just glad
versus
Loop and Louie is
School,
gone. Oh, God, I hate that game.
and you'll be leading the argument now.
If it wasn't for the fact that it's more game than Rory Story Cubes, it'd be my least favorite thing on this.
You're just so salty about it.
Who's leading this?
Louis is your Architects of the West Kingdom.
Who's leading this?
You are.
I get Ice Cool again.
All right, sounds good.
This is difficult for me. I actually like both of these games fairly a lot.
We'll have to break this down.
Yeah. In all honesty, Ice Cold, again, as you were talking about earlier, the skill of being able to curve your penguin or jump your penguin is a lot more than, say, Rhino Hero. You do need a steady hand for Rhino Hero, and there's a skill in that alone, having a steady hand and, playing the cards right. But Ice Cool, man, I've had so much fun. And the fact that if you get Ice Cool 2 and make the giant classroom, giving you this big old board and having all these player pieces, I think would be so much fun. I haven't played both versions together, but and again, when you're talking about like the art and production and the graphic design, as well done as Rhino Hero is, the fact that they incorporate the board game box as part of the player board is something I am highly intrigued with, and I wish more games did. The only one I can ever think that's done that is Cleopatra.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's got an Architects in the name.
Yeah. Huh? There's only a few others. Like Niagara. That's one.
Yeah. But I'm saying I wish more would do that. Incorporate your boxes in there. And I think Ice Cold, this is tough for me, and I agree with you. We're going to have to probably break this down because I love both of these games. These are easily two of the top 3 games on this list that I like. There's only 2 games I actively disdain.
Anyway, Mr. Bitter over here. All trying to metagame it. All right, ease of play. Which one's easier? I would say Ice Cool. Just because.
Yeah, see, I would have said Rhino Hero because it's basically you're stacking and moving. That's about it. Ice Cool, you still have to have skill to flick.
You still have to have skill to flick, but deciding which card of your hand to play next, which would be the least advantageous for the next player, that's less simple and then remembering the symbology of it.
All right, so yeah, I'll give Ease a play.
Art and production, I would give to Ice Cool as well because of the box.
The box. I think the box is what ties it to me.
And then meaningful choice, there is no random or arbitrary. It does play just as many people. It's a bit longer.
I would give this the one to Rhino Hero.
Okay.
Just because of a point you said earlier that you're beholden to, you get to draw a card and it's 1 to 3. That's the arbitrary choice right there, is because you're beholden to your point card.
Yeah.
Whatever you drew up.
Okay. That's a good point. Yep. Yeah, good point. And then replay value.
I don't know if there's an expansion to Rhino Hero. You got Rhino Hero Super Battle.
Yeah.
But that's more of a sequel. But Ice Cool 2 can be incorporated into Ice Cool 1. It's basically the same game with just different colors and expandable board.
Yeah. And I think they added a little bit more to it, but yeah, it's an expandable essentially.
Yeah.
Player range, they both Rhino Hero plays more players, and it is shorter.
Not unless you put Ice Cool 2 with it, and then Ice Cool 2 holds more players.
Yeah, but base alone though.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, base alone, it does play more. But minimum number of plays for full experience, ooh, I would have to call that a wash.
I'd have to call that a wash too.
Yeah, because you pretty much get the idea right off the bat.
Hmm.
Maybe the fact of learning the trick shots, that might be a little bit more because there's
Yeah,
no.
how we to flick it or at the top to try to flip it over
Yeah.
the boxes. Yeah, I would just give that slightly to ice cool.
Okay, then that means Ice Cool moves on,
That
which
was
is
much easier than the that one debate.
well, it's because you're not standing your ground. You're being reasonable.
Because Lupin Louie isn't a game. I keep telling you this. I knew that I knew Lupin Louie was going to be a problem with both of us because I hate that thing.
Yeah, you're not taking your bias out of it. You can't say that now.
I tried to take my bias out of it, but a fundamental flaw, and I know we're going on this again, but a fundamental flaw is if you take someone out of a game where they can't play, basically
Well,
player elimination, that ruins a game.
yeah, it's very similar to like sending your like the players' workers like to jail just because that's advantageous in the game. I get that. You're right.
Hey,
You're
hey, hey, hey.
totally right.
Here's
That's
the
a
thing.
flaw in the
You
game.
could stop me from sending them to jail by paying the bank to get your workers out of my
And you can
capture.
stop me from eliminating you by not being so bad at it.
Not if you're the first player and you get to hit the first turn.
Then play with handicap. Aim it towards the other player. Give them a
The
turn.
fact that you have to play it with handicap is a problem.
You don't have to.
I'm just saying.
Your choice. It's your
All
choice.
right, so Looping Louie, as I said earlier, only had 2 votes, and Rhino Hero was at 4.
Okay. So our finals is Pitch Car versus Ice Cool. And in this final round, we don't take a side. We just break down the productions. Is there any of these that seem immediately easier to you? I would say ease of play goes to Pitch Car.
Oh, there's actually 2 that come out, stop in my mind. Ease of play,
Yes?
pitch car, replay value, pitch car.
Yeah. Yeah, because of all of the different add-on tracks. Okay.
Yeah,
I don't disagree with that. Meaningful choice, Ice Cool.
I would give that to Ice Cool as well. Just
Absolutely.
because of the simple fact that, yeah, they're both flicking games in their
Yeah.
basic necessity, as we were talking about. One, you're just going up a track. You have to get good, like when you're trying to make the turns and stuff like this. This one, you actually have to learn trick shots to go around the hall
Yeah.
monitor, go around all that other stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, make it through the doors. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But then also, if we were to talk about, so that's 2 points for Pitch Car. No,
Yeah, 2 ease of play, replay value for pitch car. Meaningful choice, I believe, was Ice Cool.
yeah. And then art and production, I would give to Ice Cool because one, it
I
does
would agree with you.
the
Now,
production.
don't get me wrong. Pitchcar has really great production. The wooden pieces, the wooden tracks, the rubber things for the walls. But that's it.
But the
They're
rubber
they're
track, yeah, the rubber walls, like they fall out and they're not like
very
stable.
easily. It,
There's no
it it's a
good
great
solution.
production value, but when you go down to like the graphic design itself and the what is it, the art, that hands down goes to Ice Cool.
Yeah. So now that leaves us to game immersion. Now here's the thing.
All right, time to fight.
In no, this is interesting to me because I can see it going either way. Which one matches the theme more? Because you have a race car thing and you're going around a track, but you're
Honestly,
taking turns.
theme matching mechanism goes to pitch car for me. You are
Yeah.
racing.
But
Honestly,
I
whenever
mean,
you ever seen a penguin in a high school,
no, I agree. I mean, it's an absurd theme, right? But I mean, if I'm lollygagging around a high school, I'm avoiding the hall monitor. I want to just slack off and get fish. Like that. That's pretty thematic. I don't. I would be fine calling it a wash because of the fact that because pitch cart, yes, it's a racing game, but it's certainly slow for a racing game because everyone's taking a turn.
it is
Now,
slow. But
there's no
I mean,
solution.
would you say downforce is slow because everybody's taking a turn?
Yeah, yes, I would. I would
But
say,
even though it's still one of the better racing games out there.
yeah, it's less thematic because it's just Like you are going really slow, and
I'll,
I
I'll,
would
I'll
say,
I'll give you that. I'm just saying I'd rather play pitch car with it going slow than actually watch a real race because I'm bored out of my mind.
right. And another left turn. The only race game that I really think is fairly thematic is Russian Bash, and that's because of how simple the turns are.
Well, it's not just that. It's because it's a race game, but it's pretty much Mario Kart in a box.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it's also like it is a really fast game. You're moving a lot of spaces per turn, and and because of
Well,
how
you can move a
simple
lot
the
of spaces per turn in a downforce, but we're talking pitch car, and you can actually
you're,
move very fast in pitch car if you
but you're
flick
also
right.
controlling other people's cars, which doesn't make
Yeah.
political sense. But as far as pitch car goes, you're not controlling other people's stuff. It, I'd be fine calling it a wash, just because I
All
can
right,
see.
I'll call that a wash.
Yeah. Um, stand up moments. I would say ice cool because of the ability for trick shots.
I'd say ice cold too, just because of that. But man, there's when we played pitch car, there were some stand up moments when
Mhm.
somebody knocked somebody else off the track, or they flipped their car, so they had to spin their turn to flip it back up. No, there was some stand up moments, a lot of laughter too.
Yeah, they're both really good. Yeah, I just think that like
I have to
when a
say
player
though,
makes the trick shot, even if you're on the other side, if I'm the hall monitor and you make that amazing shot, I'm still excited for you.
honestly, I think game immersion is going to go to a wash because I think the player interaction is a little bit better in pitch car because of that. You're trying to avoid knocking someone off the track because they'll slow you down. You don't want to flip their car.
I would give it to Ice Cool, and just because like those moves like where you flick it and then it starts spinning and wobbling and you're right next to the other penguin that's not moving. You're like, whoa, whoa, every time you're just like, oh
Because you
god,
don't want to lose that card. Yeah,
or
no.
curves around it, like, oh god, those are
Other than the trick shots, I find more like table talk coming from pitch car. I just remember it better, the table talk, because it's like, why are you going so fast, Bryce? Slow down, man. Let us catch up to you. Or the trash talking itself too. I just remember a lot of the trash talking. Whereas this one was like, don't touch that, don't touch that. Okay, good. I was
uh,
more worried. I was more talking to my piece rather than to the other players.
I don't know. We would get pretty standoffish. Like, I'm coming for you. Watch, I'm jumping over this wall. Let me show you. Boom, and then you'd miss. It'd be
Yeah,
fun.
and then again, I've also saw pitch car like I was telling you about, like in conventions when they're doing the tournaments and stuff like that, and someone going over the jump or the loop to loop and the cheering and stuff like that. I just the player interaction there and the trash talking on that too. I just can't give it to Ice Cold because I don't see that. I mean, I see it some when you're like, "Don't touch that penguin! Don't you dare! You go through that door." But you're talking to the piece. You're not trash talking to say the hall monitor itself, or
Okay.
unless they're coming into your room. It's like, "Why are you coming over here?" That's about it.
I don't know. I'm fine calling it a wash. They're both as thematic as they can be. They're both
All
really
right,
fun.
Ice Cold wins.
Did it have the fan vote?
Well, no, because of game immersion does the theme match the mechanism. We watch that player
Uh,
interaction, Ice Cool, or memorable moments, Ice Cool. Player interaction, pitch car. So it's a wash, and yes, Ice Cool won.
all right. Well, Ice Cool moves on to being the winner of the best children's game. How many votes did they get, Daniel?
10 for Ice Cool, which was our second vote getter behind
Yeah.
Animal Upon Animal.
Yeah.
And finally, the last one, which was Pitch Car, had 2. It was tied with Looping Louie.
Wow.
The
Okay.
only one that did not get a vote was Rory Story Cubes, which I agree with, but I think Looping Louie should have been down there too.
Yeah.
I'm gonna check the votes to see if you kind of try to stack it with Looping Louie over here.
Daniel, I'm sorry I ruined your experience playing Lupin Louie. I really am. I'm very sorry. I apologize for this and all future times we play
Oh, I'm
Lupin
not
Louie.
playing that game ever again, so don't even ask.
Okay. Well, I apologize that I've ruined your childhood experience with Lupin Louie. Oh goodness. I need to stop ruining games for you. So Ice
Oh,
Cool
see, I
Cadet,
don't I don't hate Carcassonne. I just won't play with you. I won't touch Looping Louie at all.
you sold your copy of Carcassonne, didn't you?
No, I still have it. I'm
Oh,
going to sell it
you're gonna
because
sell.
I like the digital version better. It's easier to play online. The cleanup
Uh-huh.
is a lot better and simpler.
I have a login for it. We can play.
Not with you, no.
I did get the new version of Carcassonne, the Hunters and Gatherers. Anyway, beside the point. This episode has gone on way too long. We want to thank you for tuning in. If you ever want to join us on a live discussion, you certainly can. Join us at twitch.tv/everydayboardgames.
You can also find all re-uploads of these videos on YouTube at Everyday Board Games Podcast 2020. If you like what you find, you can also give us a like and a subscribe. It helps us grow on the platform greatly, as well as all audio versions found on most podcast platforms. I can't speak anymore after having to argue with you. Under Everyday Board Games Podcast, which includes Spotify, Google, Amazon Music, Podbean. As I've mentioned countless times, we're trying to get on iTunes, people. We really are.
And if you ever want to give us an idea for future episodes, if you want to hear us stop arguing about how good Lupin Louie truly is,
It's
send us some
disgusting.
suggestions or just even send us an email to say hi at everydayboardgames2020@gmail.com.
You can also get in contact us on Twitter at our official Twitter account, EBG Podcast.
So we want to thank you for tuning in today. As always, I've been Daniel.
And I've been Daniel.
And thank you for listening to Everyday Board Games.
Have a good one.